Hi, this is Victoria Pendragon. Welcome to my alternate reality. I'm doing this. Just all of a sudden it was like, go do this. So I thought I would. I wanted to tell you a story about something that happened last year, which I actually recorded last year, but it was such a crap recording that I just put it aside and then forgot that I hadn't done it. It's about a trip that I made to, against my better judgment, to, what the hell is it called? Some alligator place. My husband wanted to go. We were down in Florida. And I could tell from the sound of the alligator place, whatever it was, that this was going to be one of those places where you've got a whole bunch of animals just basically thrown in ponds, concrete ponds together, and it was going to be awful. And it was. It was everything that I expected. Except for one thing. Feroz Zonbi, and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ferozonbi. I thought it was zombie when I first saw it. At one point, my husband decided he wanted to go get something to eat, which means something I can't eat. And so he went off to do that, and I roamed looking at a wall of posters that were there, one after the other, mostly just horror stories about what alligators had done to people. When I got to the end of the line of posters, I noticed that there was another side to it. And so I walked around to the other side, and as I was walking around, I saw a door, and next to it a huge poster that was talking about albino alligators versus white alligators. I didn't know there were either of those things. And so I was entranced, and I read it, and it talked about the albino alligators having pink eyes and the white ones having blue eyes. And I thought, this is very interesting. So there was a door, and I went through the door. And inside was a large room divided into smaller, I won't call them cubicles, they weren't that tiny, but a large room divided into smaller rooms, perhaps, by glass walls. Behind the glass walls were albino alligators and two white alligators with blue eyes. They were separate from each other. I looked at there were three albinos together, and I looked at them, and they were interesting. Their skin is actually kind of yellow-white. And then my eye was caught by this fellow who was huge. And the pen that they had him in, this glass enclosed area, it barely fit him. It was awful. And there was a very, very, very shallow pond. It probably would have come up to my knee if I had stepped into it, if I had a knee by the time I got there. He was immense, and he just was lying there perfectly still. And I could feel the anger coming off of him. It was palpable. I decided to sit with that. I can't give you my reasons for wanting to do that exactly. I don't know. It was just something I felt compelled to do. So I came right to the edge of the glass and sat cross-legged on the concrete floor, sometimes observing him, sometimes with my eyes closed. And once, when I opened my eyes from them being closed, I saw that he was opening his eyes to look at me. And I looked into his eyes. And as I did, I understood that inside me lived still that kind of anger, that I recognized in him a fellow carrier of anger. certainly what he was enduring was a dreadful abuse. And he endured it day after day after day. After I made my realization and had filled up with enough of his anger to recognize my own, I thought it odd that the other alligators had had little plaques on their pens that had their names, and his didn't. So I walked around to the side. Kind of, it looked like it might have been a utility entrance to the place. And there, on a large bolted door, there was a sign that hung, and it said Pharaoh's zombie, which translated means fierce ghost. And according to the little story beneath it, no one dare enter his space. Not even to feed him, they kind of throw it in and run, because he will simply attack. Completely understandable. Completely understandable. Before my issues with abuse had been calmed, soothed, I had nightmares. My nightmares were very different from other people's nightmares, because in my nightmares, I was killing people. That's anger. Anyway, when I left this place, I went to find my husband. And I really had no idea how long I'd been there. I couldn't find him. And I was in there all alone for the most part. At one point, 2 people walked in and stayed a bit and walked out, but mostly it was just me and Pharaoh's and the other guys. I finally found my husband. And he's like, "Where were you?" And I told him where I was. I said, "You had to walk right past it to get from the food stand to where I'm finding you." And he said, "I did." He said, "I went in." And I said, "Well, I was in there." And he said, "No, you weren't." Which, of course, yeah, I was. Wasn't anywhere else. I was in there, sitting on the floor, and the walls are glass. He said, "I walked in there. I did not see you." Well, he did not see me, because I'm imagining I needed to not be seen. I think I needed that private time with the fierce ghost to get to know something. And to that end, I was invisible to my husband, who is possibly one of the kindest people in the world, and the anger that I carry is something that he can understand, but only intellectually. Thank heaven. So it was a very interesting experience, both the exchange with Pharaoh Zombie and the fact that my husband, who was in there, and he described it, I know he was in the right place, and there was only one place like it. Alligator, whatever that was, is not that big. And it was just a perfect thing that was meant to happen. And I've wanted to share it with you for some time. Thank you for listening. Bye.